Nobody has taken more teams with less talent and improved them dramatically as quickly as Larry Brown.
The dream is real! Kansas has won the NCAA title!
You would roll your eyes a million times saying, what does he want?
Don't walk it up, John. If you're going to call a play, run it up.
Larry and Allen did nothing but yell at each other, just scream at each other.
It was just myself and Coach trying to make things work.
To me, he was my first sports hero. Who didn't want to be Larry Brown?
In a sense, all of human existence is equally divisible into two parts. Those times when Larry Brown is about to quit his old job and those times when Larry Brown is about to take his new job.
When Larry Brown has his introductory press conference for a new city, he already has 1 foot out the door.
Larry Brown is available. This is not a recording.
He's a gypsy. You know, he gets ants in his pants. He needs to dance.
He's coaching's version of a nomad. No need for that sturdy good furniture you buy when you plant down roots, because there are no roots.
In his travels, Larry Brown has taken 2 colleges to a national championship game and won once. In the pros, the Hall of Fame coach has taken 8 teams to the playoffs and in 2004 won the NBA title with the Pistons. Although widely respected as a teacher, strategist, and floor coach, Brown's reputation is colored by a severe case of restlessness.
You don't get Larry Brown for the long haul. You hope to just ride him for as long as Larry can take you.
There's a lot of us that would move more if we could have that opportunity. Other guys may stay and take the ship down versus just trying to get out, or they can't leave, so they just stay to get paid. He doesn't do that.
It does look like he's a nomad moving around, but there was always a reason.
You know, every job I ever went into, I felt was my last. I loved Davidson College, and I just don't think they treated me the right way. I felt I failed at Denver. At UCLA, I was frustrated about not being able to provide for my family. And I've only been fired once, and that was at San Antonio. You know, I wanted to stay with the Clippers, but it didn't work out. Indiana, my last year, I didn't think I did a good job. Thought it was time to move on.
Larry Brown's long, wandering sojourn has never helped his reputation, and that overshadowed what he accomplished.
Nobody in the history of coaching has taken more teams with less talent and improved them dramatically as quickly as Larry Brown. He took the Clippers to the playoffs. Nobody takes the Clippers to the playoffs.
I think he's the best coach that ever coached the game. He had a lot to do with me developing on and off the basketball court.
He maxed out my potential as well as a lot of guys that were here at that time. He made me the player I really am today.
This is the greatest team game ever invented if it's played the right way. And wherever I've gone, I've tried to remember that. And I'm relentless in that.
Brown's idealism reflects something deep and complicated in his nature.
Larry is, to me, like Diogenes in his own way. Diogenes was always in search of the honest man. Larry was in search of the perfect basketball team.
Larry has a vision of the game that sometimes may get in the way of him enjoying himself because it's so hard for him not to see it be perfect. Sometimes he's like a Dick Tracy character with a storm cloud over his head, you know.
Larry's never happy when things are going good. It's when they're bad that he starts getting happy, because then he can get into it and fix it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting things to be perfect. Why wouldn't you want to be the best at what you did and make your situation special?
He's simply too complex, too deep, and too smart to let go all of his self-doubt and all of his doubts about people around him.
Brown's inner turmoil was never more evident than after he led Kansas to the national championship in 1988. Tempted by an offer to return to UCLA, Brown, whose season had been shadowed by personal problems, struggled to choose the right path.
When you think of his great 1988 title with Kansas, it's hard for me to divorce that from the circus that was going on behind the scenes.
The big question, will Larry Brown be back on the sideline next year at Kansas? I will get on my knees and scrub the Allen Fieldhouse if Larry Brown is coaching next year.
Larry got really confused the rest of that week about what he wanted to do, and he went out and talked to the people at UCLA.
Larry came to Los Angeles secretly. He confirmed to me that he had reached agreement that night with the administration at UCLA and that he would be heading back to Lawrence the next day to make clear there what was going to happen.
I picked him up at the Lawrence airport, and between talking to him in UCLA and picking up at Lawrence airport, something had changed.
I came back, and after thinking about it, I've decided to stay at the university.
It seemed like everything was happening too quickly, and I wasn't able to really make the right decision at that time. Going back, I was staying, it was because I wanted to be with the kids and I wanted to continue to be a college coach, but that didn't alleviate the problems I was having or the issues I was facing. I spent a year separated and the divorce was coming through, and I didn't like the way my life was going outside of basketball.
2 months later, the San Antonio Spurs jet is out at our airport. I said, oh boy, that's it. And they came and got him, and that was that.
It wasn't a matter of what Kansas could do for me. It was just the opportunity to come here.
Just about as soon as he took the job, he lamented that really UCLA was where he wanted to be. He often has that theme, and he still does at different times, things he thinks he maybe should be doing.
His decisions are often guided as much by his emotions as by his cognitive response. He makes no secret of that.
What Larry Brown responds to most of all is the sense of being loved and wanted and needed. And he's quick to fall out of that wherever he goes because he understands there's a small shelf life for strangers to love me and want me and need me.
My uncle, he took me in a room and he told me my father died. I was almost violent because I didn't believe it. I started hitting him. They told me not to tell Larry.
Born in Brooklyn, the younger of two brothers, on September 14, 1940, Lawrence Harvey Brown experienced a happy early childhood in a safe urban environment.
I remember living in an unbelievable neighborhood. You could ride your bike anywhere. Nobody worried about where you were and when you were coming home. I didn't grow up just playing basketball. I played stickball, punch ball, slap ball, you name it, stoop ball. And I remember, my dad going away at the beginning of the week and coming back on weekends.
The fact that we worked very, very hard, I think we got that from our parents. Dad was a traveling furniture salesman for a big company in New York. He decided that he wanted to move because his territory was Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio. So we moved to Pittsburgh.
But in April of 1947, 3 months after moving to Pittsburgh, Brown's 43-year-old father, Milton, was struck by a heart attack.
My mom decided that because he wasn't breathing correctly, she'd take him to the hospital. Larry and I were asleep. When I woke up the next morning, I see my aunt and uncle. My uncle, he took me in a room and he told me my father died. And I was almost violent because I didn't believe it. I started hitting him. They told me not to tell Larry.
I was so used to him leaving and traveling and then coming back on weekends that it wasn't something that dawned on me right away like my brother.
That's something that's bothered Larry for a long time because he wasn't at the funeral. They didn't tell him until a few weeks later.
Ann Brown took her two sons back to New York, where they lived over her father's bakery in Long Beach, a pleasant community on the shores of the Atlantic.
My mother didn't have a job, so she worked in the bakery. And she worked anywhere from 10 to 15, 16 hours a day.
Having two boys to raise by herself was just really too much, and it was very lucky that the uncles and the cousins did help a lot.
I had everything that you could possibly have growing up in my mind. I had a playground across the street from the bakery where I played until it got dark, until my mom blinked the lights and I had to come home.
When I was growing up in Long Beach, there were two things that you could count on late at night. One would be the waves hitting the shore in Long Beach, and the other thing would be Larry Brown dribbling a basketball.
He had such a great desire for the game. If he wasn't playing, he was watching it on television.
Basketball was his life. He fell in love with that sport at that particular time, and he's loved it ever since.
Anything with a ball I felt I could do. The only thing is basketball was more available to me. It was the one sport you could play by yourself and just enjoy what you were doing.
I'd been coaching about 6 years and saw this 12-year-old little boy, just a beautiful basketball player. And that's when I knew that I would bring him up to the varsity as soon as he was ready, which was about 2 years later.
He had what they call fresh legs. In the fourth quarter, everybody else would be dragging. Larry would be just as strong in the fourth quarter as he was in the first quarter.
To me, he was my first sports hero. 5'8", 5'9". And he was unbelievably quick, fast, great shooter, great defensive player. And he always had soft touch. If he passed up the hands, were always like he was like a prairie dog standing up, you know, if he heard a noise. I said, not being a big kid then, that's who I want to be. Who didn't want to be Larry Brown?
I can't describe to you how I idolized Larry Brown. Larry's, I don't know, 7 or 8 years older than I am, and Larry was my counselor at camp. And Larry was a god as an athlete. So you dress like him, so you stand like him, so you try to talk like him.
While Larry Brown was idolized back on Long Island, his brother Herb played in relative anonymity at the University of Vermont.
He lived in the shadow of Larry. Larry got all the attention in town. He was the star, he was the darling, everybody's darling.
My uncles doted on Larry because he was the younger brother, and Larry was a great athlete. So everybody gravitates to the great athlete.
After Vermont, Herb stayed in the game, coaching at 2 small Long Island colleges and internationally. In 1976, he took over the Pistons in the NBA, where he coached against his brother, the Golden Boy.
Well, I'm the vagabond. He's not the vagabond. He's a lot smarter than I am. Plus, he's had long-term contracts, which I never had the luxury of having.
You know, my brother was really capable, and he had to go through hell. You know, I've been given this silver spoon where everything's fallen into place for me, and he's really had to work at his job.
He and Herb have this love-hate relationship. They always have. He's given Herb responsibilities and taken him on as assistant coaches, and he's watched after Herb. But being brothers, they have their differences.
They didn't talk for years over some silly argument over the NBA draft and who wanted Marcus Johnson.
You can misunderstand it and say that they don't like each other or that there was some rift between them. But all I know is that any time that Herbie needed Larry's help, Larry was there for him. It's a sibling rivalry that's probably worn itself out.
Since 1995, Herb has worked for his brother as an assistant coach with the Pacers, 76ers, and Pistons.
I didn't think it'd be easy. It's never easy having the young son as the head coach, especially when he knows how capable he is and the sacrifices he's made. I was thrilled to have an opportunity to give him that chance.
I think the relationship has grown a lot. I think Herb is kind of content with his life, and I think Dad is content with their life. And I think that they've come full circle.
I think that night, February 1961, was one of the pivotal moments in ACC history. It's the moment when Duke-Carolina became a basketball rivalry.
I don't think any family situation is like the University of North Carolina. Probably the greatest basketball program you could possibly have in terms of doing it the right way.
Larry is all about Carolina and Carolina basketball, as much as anyone I've ever seen, perhaps more.
Recruited by the legendary Frank McGuire, Larry Brown arrived at Chapel Hill in 1959. As a sophomore, he helped to ignite one of the most enduring rivalries in college basketball.
I think that night, February 1961, was one of the pivotal moments in ACC history. It's the moment when Duke Carolina became a basketball rivalry.
He went for a layup, and I fouled him hard, but it was clean, and he threw the ball at me, and I said, Larry, and he started swinging, and I punched him, and I cold-cocked him.
It was at the end of the game, and he kind of tackled me when, you know, I didn't think that was justified.
The benches emptied out on the court, fans were out there, and it was a real momentous occasion, particularly Carolina against Duke. And Larry was right in the middle of it.
Suspended for the remainder of the 1961 season, Brown returned the following fall to play under former Tar Heel assistant Dean Smith, who had replaced McGuire as head coach.
I thought seriously about leaving, but there was no way my mother was going to allow that. She had too much respect for Coach McGuire and Coach Smith.
He was our point guard his senior year, captain, had a good feel for the game. Larry Brown's heart is this big, biggest ever.
I think Dean saw that Larry had a great basketball mind. They were enthralled with the X's and O's. For the rest of us, we were just out there playing. But they were always talking, you know, well, if you did this and what if you did that?
After graduation, Brown won gold at the 1964 Olympics in Tokyo. A year later, he began work under his mentor as an assistant coach. An early responsibility under Smith was to mine the best Tar Heel talent during tryouts.
I became the freshman coach, and Coach Smith said one of the most difficult things you're going to have to do is cut the team down. He said, well, there's going to be 90 or 100 kids try out, and we only have 15 spots. So I brought the 100 to the practice gym, and I had them run for 2 hours. I came to practice the next day, and Coach said, I got good news and bad news. He said, the good news is we're down to 15 guys. The bad news is we lost all 5 scholarship athletes.
He had a dream of what you should be as a basketball player, and he was never satisfied until you reached that ultimate goal that he saw for you.
In 1967, after 2 seasons under Smith, Brown joined his friend and former teammate Doug Moe to play for New Orleans in the newly formed ABA.
Nobody I was any closer to than Doug. I just liked being around him. He had a great outlook on life. He was an unbelievable player and competitor. And
they were roommates, they were best friends. They were traded together to the Oakland Oaks and won an ABA championship there.
Well, they were like a married couple. They finished each other's sentences, they argued and made up.
I was El Slavo, he was Mr. Neat. I'd be taking a nap during the afternoon, and all of a sudden I was pushed, Doug, how do I look? Have on some suit, and oh, Larry, you look terrific. I go back to sleep, another 15 minutes, go, but Doug, how do I look? He's got on another suit. I think he stayed up all afternoon trying on suits to see what he was gonna wear that night.
Over 5 seasons in the ABA, Brown averaged 11 points, led the league in assists 3 times, and in 1968 was MVP of the All-Star Game.
The way they talk about point guards being the quarterback and the coach wants one that thinks like him, he was perfect because that's how he played.
If you were open, you got the ball. If you weren't paying attention, he'd let it go by the first time. And the second time, he'd hit you in the back of the head. It's a wake-up call.
When Brown's playing career ended in 1972, he stayed in the league as head coach of the Carolina Cougars and hired Moe as his assistant.
I was close enough to him that I could say anything I wanted to him. We were that close that he could tell me to kiss off, and I could tell him to kiss off.
In 1974, Brown and Moe took over the Denver Nuggets, where Brown was twice named the ABA's Coach of the Year. On game night, the duo provided comic relief.
I think people came to the games not so much to see the games, but to see what Larry and Doug were going to wear. There was a checked sport coat that would be green and yellow and blue with maybe a pink shirt and bell-bottom blue jeans. And you had Doug Moe next to him who looked like, not that he had slept in his outfit, he looked like a homeless person had slept in his outfit.
In 1976, the sideline act broke up when Moe was hired as the San Antonio Spurs head coach. Brown, meanwhile, had stayed in touch with his mentor back in Chapel Hill.
We've been close for so many years, and they called me to fly up to Philadelphia when he got the NBA Coach of the Year. I was told I was supposed to come here.
Oh, my God.
He's always been there for me. He feels a responsibility with so many people that have been involved with his life to help. I call him all the time. I think he would do anything for me.
But his closeness to Smith wasn't enough to get him the North Carolina head coaching job after Smith's successor stepped down.
If it was going to happen, it was probably going to happen after Bill Guthridge retired in the summer of 2000. Dick Bedore, the athletic director at the time, actually flew out to California to meet with Larry Brown.
I was really, truly excited. And 5 minutes into the conversation, I kind of felt like there was no way this was going to happen. He spent an hour talking to me about why I wasn't right for the job. The other hour telling me about other guys that were qualified to do it. It's tough when somebody tells you you're not capable of doing something or they don't want you. And that hadn't happened to me a lot in my life. And generally, when that does happen, you know, as competitive as I am, you want to prove them wrong.
There were times where he got on him to the point where I felt bad for Danny. He would just tell him how disappointed he is in him. I've never been more disappointed in a player than I am in you today.
I want you to catch the ball out here. All right, and then we got Tayshaun on the block.
It's the greatest thrill to see something that you've worked on in practice accomplished in a game.
Coach Brown almost could have forgotten about the games. He just wanted the process and the practice to be perfect.
It doesn't matter if you're the star of the team or if you're the 12th man on the team. You're going to get a well-educated lesson from Coach Brown.
If Larry Brown has been an effective teacher in the pros, his personal touch was also felt at the college level. In 1979, he took over at UCLA, where the Westwood campus still echoed with the cheers of the John Wooden era.
We started off really bad. We were 8-6 at one point, and at UCLA, that's as good as being 0-14.
It was a situation where we started off with a lot of older players, and frankly, the younger players were better.
We lost more games in a month than they lost in any single year at home. I decided, well, I'm going to start playing the young kids.
That March, the 8th-seeded Bruins upset top-ranked DePaul in the second round of the NCAA tournament.
An upset! UCLA beats DePaul 77-71.
Then, after beating Purdue in the Final Four, Brown's eager underclassmen met favored Louisville for the national championship.
We played 4 freshmen and started a sophomore 6'5" center. And lo and behold, we got to the final game, and really were a layup away from winning a championship.
Kiki Vandeweghe had a breakaway. Instead of dunking it, Jerry Eves kind of sliced him. And I really believed if we had made that shot, that was a 7-point lead, and we weren't losing that.
Now the man will shoot. Told you the man would shoot that time. Louisville has taken the lead at 56-54.
At the point where the game was on the line, our kids scored the last 9 points of the game.
It's all over. Louisville, national champions, 1980.
He just said, look, I couldn't be more proud of you guys. Nobody expected anything out of you except us sitting here in this room.
But Brown's outstanding accomplishment soon was tainted when recruiting violations led the NCAA to strike UCLA's name from the record book for its 1980 finals appearance.
That investigation was going on long before I even started coaching there. The biggest violation was letting a prospect's brother stay at the hotel with them.
Sam Gilbert, the notorious UCLA booster, was still wielding his influence in the program. No coach can function properly if they don't have control. And I think in the end, that's what drove him from UCLA.
In 1983, after 2 years with the New Jersey Nets in the NBA, Brown accepted an offer to coach Kansas. Controversy surrounded his first major recruit, Danny Manning, whose father, Ed, had played for Brown in the ABA.
He was recovering from quadruple bypass surgery and was driving a truck because that was the only way he could raise a family.
Larry, he called me, to find out how I was doing, and then he offered me a job.
Everybody said it was a package deal, if you will, but I really wanted to go to North Carolina. And the bottom line for me was wanting my family to be around me during my college years.
Thus began one of the more complicated coach-player relationships in Brown's career.
I never thought Danny realized how special he was, and it was frustrating for me.
Coach wanted him to be more of a leader on and off of the basketball court. And Danny's just a laid-back kid.
He wanted me to be vocal with my teammates. That was something that wasn't natural for me. I had to grow into that.
There were times where he got on him to the point where I felt bad for Danny. He would just tell him how disappointed he is in him. I've never been more disappointed in a player than I am in you today. Coming from someone you care about, there's nothing that's harder than that.
In March of Manning's sophomore year, Kansas lost to Duke in the 1986 Final Four. 2 seasons later, the Jayhawks opened 12-8.
We had injuries, and we lost a few games. At one point, we're thinking, we might be getting an invite to the NIT.
There were times when we lost games at home in Allen Fieldhouse, and you don't lose too many games in Allen Fieldhouse. And he would say, hey, listen, guys, I see where we're at. I see us getting better, and that's the most important thing.
I remember in practice, we played one-on-one, and that drill used to wear us out every day. But towards the end of the year, all those repetitions of sitting down and playing defense and being focused and concentrating paid off for us because we were able to defend as a team.
Behind Brown's incessant prodding, Kansas rebounded to reach the NCAA tournament as a 6th seed. In the second round, the Jayhawks were close to being eliminated by a 14th seed.
If this shot by the Murray State player goes in, the season's over. That shot did not fall. Then they went to Detroit, won again, then they beat Kansas State. I'm thinking, this team is in the Final Four? What is going on here?
Jayhawks have done it. They're going to Kansas City.
After beating Duke in the Final Four, Kansas prepared to meet Big 8 foe Oklahoma for the national championship.
Coach gathered the starting 5 on the court right before tip-off, and he says, guys, Oklahoma team, they love to run. So let's slow it down and play sensible basketball. And he walks off the court, and while he's walking off, Danny looks out the huddle to make sure he was out of earshot and said, guys, forget that. Let's run with them.
Danny up the floor against Stacey King. His shot is good. He found the basket count.
The thing that sticks in my mind was him saying, okay, we just proved to them that we could play at their pace. Let's make them prove that they can play at ours.
Kansas by 2. Here's King inside. Shot blocked by Manning. Taken by Danny.
He just looked at me with all the confidence in the world. He didn't have to say much, just his look.
It's over! The dream is real! Kansas has won the NCAA title!
Danny and the Miracles won a national title because Danny carried that team. And not only was he a good player in his own right, he made every guy better. And that's what Coach was striving for.
It's been called, I guess, your greatest coaching accomplishment.
I don't know about that, but it's the greatest thrill I ever had.
When Brown left Kansas that June to go to the Spurs, controversy arrived on campus in the form of an NCAA violation regarding potential Memphis State transfer Vincent Askew. The Jayhawks were banned from playing in the 1989 postseason.
He told me his grandmother was dying and he needed to get back to Memphis. So I gave him the exact amount of money a plane ticket would cost to and from Lawrence.
We were under that 5-year window for a very serious football recruiting problem that we'd had before, so any violation became more serious just because of the window we were operating in.
He's the buck. That's where it stops. Obviously, he knew what was going on. The sad thing about it was they were prevented from defending their championship the next year.
Larry Brown is in coaching for the relationships. And what's in this fat NCAA rule book is probably not the thing he's consulting first thing out of the box in the morning.
There's everything that's going to wear on Larry. If it's college, it's boosters, it's NCAA rules, it's guidelines, and so on. In the pros, it could be agents, it could be the players' attitude, it's the fact that they don't like to practice. You could find something wrong with every level, and that's what Larry does.
After a while, I had to realize that this guy wasn't just trying to embarrass me or chastise me or anything like that. He was just trying to help me and help our team, help this franchise.
Coaching in the modern NBA is not easy for somebody like Larry Brown. He wants to like his players. He wants them to like him. That's not easy in the present world of the NBA.
Anyone who teaches with the passion that he teaches, with the modern-day microwave instant gratification basketball player of today's generation, has to leave, because familiarity does breed contempt.
Don't walk it up, John. If you're going to call a play, run it up.
He can wear on you a little bit. You know, there's a lot of times when you would go home and you would roll your eyes a million times saying, you know, what does he want?
Coaches coach execution. You should never have to coach effort. You're playing on the United States Olympic team, and you got to question people's efforts. You got a serious problem.
At the 2004 Olympics, Larry Brown, coach of the U.S. team, met head-on with the postmodern athlete.
It is impossible to overstate how depressing Athens was for Larry Brown. I mean, you could see it on his face.
He's been known to have a bias against playing young players, and he didn't play LeBron James a lot, didn't play Carmelo Anthony very much at all.
They had never sat on the bench before. They've always been the focal point of their team, and it was a very difficult situation.
Brown's woes with NBA players date back to 1978, when forward George McGinnis was acquired by the Denver Nuggets in a trade with the 76ers.
Very first day of practice, we started warming up, and George McGinnis is a person who likes to have fun and just kept lollygagging through it. And Larry called timeout.
I got a call from Larry. I want that guy out of here tomorrow. One day into the season, Larry felt we had made a mistake.
Larry didn't deal very well with problems and being confrontational with players, and so if there was a problem, the easiest way to solve that problem was to get rid of the player.
In February of 1979, after 53 games with McGinnis, Brown resigned. A decade later, he collided with another high-profile talent, Spurs rookie David Robinson.
David was so gifted and had so many varied interests that he wasn't your typical NBA player. And you can't go into basketball half-ass. It was difficult for him to understand that commitment.
David had his frustrations too. He was the kind of person that would never say anything back to Larry. And so Larry would just let him have it.
In 1992, when Brown took the Clippers franchise to the playoffs for the first time in 16 seasons, a reunion with Danny Manning did not go as the coach had hoped.
In most relationships or situations where you spend a lot of time with someone, you start to take each other for granted. And I think that's what happened with us.
That relationship became a very strained relationship where it came to a head where they had several heated arguments on the road, and I think the next year you saw Larry was gone.
Nowhere would Brown's manner be tested more than when he arrived in Philadelphia to remake the franchise in 1997.
I'm not the average player. I don't do everything like a lot of other people do it. I think Coach Brown had to sit back and take the time to try to understand where I was coming from a lot of times.
The coach was just trying to get Ireland to understand that in order to be the best player that you could possibly be, you need to get in here and practice.
He'd duck out an emergency exit and during practice and scarf down some Taco Bell tacos. And that drove Brown crazy because to him, practice is this sacrosanct ritual.
I'm tired of everybody talking about my relationship with Allen Iverson. I wonder what your relationship would be with any employee that you might have who doesn't choose to come to work on time or doesn't choose to come to work at all.
In December of 1999, the Brown-Iverson relationship boiled over after the high-scoring guard was benched during a loss to the Pistons.
After the game, and Allen Iverson said, people don't like the way I play. They can just get me the hell out of here. They can trade me. I don't give a damn. As Allen Iverson was saying this, Larry Brown was 5 feet away.
Allen and I spoke. He wanted the coach fired, or I'm not playing, I'm not coming to practice. This guy disrespected me. I get coach, I talk to coach, coach wants him traded. He doesn't want any parts of him.
Pat Croce called a meeting, which I thought right there blew any chance of me ever coaching Allen.
The way it was explained to me for the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, Larry and Allen did nothing but yell at each other, just scream at each other, just vented.
Slowly but surely, you could see that they were listening to each other. And you could see both their eyes. And Allen, from being like this, to this, to standing up straight, to stopping and hugging him, walking around and hugging him, it was kind of like a transformation.
It was just myself and Coach trying to make things work. It was a turning point, you know, with me and him.
I called Pat after the meeting and I said, Pat, if you had a problem with me and what I did, just tell me. To bring me in with another player and think that I can ever coach this kid again is ridiculous. And Pat, you know, went on and telling me how beautiful it was.
True to form, Brown tried to trade away his problem child. But in the summer of 2000, a deal to send Iverson to Detroit fell through.
Few people realize that were it not for Matt Geiger, Allen Iverson would not have been here. But Geiger had a 15% kicker in his contract that he would have to agree to waive in order for the trade to go through. He wouldn't waive it.
You know, we made a decision at the time, it didn't go through, and a lot of trades that you don't make sometimes are the best ones.
Well, Allen Iverson came back with a vengeance, and his biggest incentive for doing all of that, contrary to what he will tell you, it was not winning. It was looking at Larry Brown and saying, yeah, how you like me now?
In the 2000-2001 season, the team blossomed as Iverson was voted league MVP and led the 76ers to the NBA Finals.
Coach comes in and has the wherewithal to move Allen off the ball. Probably for the first time in his career, he was no longer the point guard.
He put role players there, guys who just wanted to rebound, just wanted to set the pick. And then he brought in Dikembe Mutombo, who was the great defensive presence.
After a while, I had to realize that this guy wasn't just trying to embarrass me or chastise me or anything like that. He was just trying to help me and help our team, help this franchise.
It was a season that will be remembered for all of Larry Brown's teaching and all of the things he did to bring a group together and really, truly overachieve.
After falling to the Lakers in 5 games, the 76ers could not regain their winning edge the next season, losing to the Celtics in the first round. Before the team had dispersed for the summer, fireworks reignited between Brown and his star.
The key player got to be there. He's got to be practicing. He's got to set the example, and he knows that.
I love Larry Brown. That's my man. But in this situation right here, me and him, we ain't tight as I thought we was. I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice.
At the end of the 2003 season, Brown asked out of his job.
He just felt like he couldn't deal with Allen Iverson anymore. There was but so much he could do.
He contractually was obligated to be our coach. If we had said, you have to coach for us. I felt that Larry Brown had done a phenomenal job for us. And if he wanted to move on, I wasn't going to stand in his way.
There would be sometimes in games and practice when, I thought I was making the right play. I wasn't, or I wasn't like he wanted me to.
Larry was so consumed with basketball, he had little time for his family. He gave of himself emotionally to his players and his team, and I think that had great impact on his family life.
Larry Brown's first marriage to his college sweetheart, Gail, produced 2 children before disintegrating after 12 years.
Gail did everything she possibly could to allow me to be successful, and I didn't realize there were other things that were equally as important, and I was pretty selfish.
He was a great father when he was there, and that was, of course, the problem. He was not around that much. I always felt like the Lord came first, and then the wife or the husband, and then the children, and then your career. He had that backwards to me.
After a second marriage failed during his time at Kansas, Brown married his current wife, Shelley, in 1993. The couple has 2 children.
Having the second chance to do this with Madison, LJ, and Shelley, I think he's enjoying that part of it. When you to go to Little League practice and coach LJ's team, or to go with Madison to a recital.
I think he realizes that how hard it was for my mom to raise, 2 girls by herself. I think it's made him a better dad.
After all the years of being a nomad, it seems like he's found his home with his family.
With his life in balance, Brown, in 2003, became coach of the Pistons, who the year before had won 50 games. To take them to the next level, Brown sought the cooperation of Chauncey Billups.
Chauncey's not a point guard. Chauncey's a shooting guard. He's a combo guard. He could score, man. He could flat out shoot, and Larry forced him to be a point guard.
There'd be sometimes in games and practice when, I thought I was making the right play. I wasn't, or I wasn't like he wanted me to.
At the 2004 trading deadline, Brown added troubled star and fellow Tar Heel Rasheed Wallace to the Pistons.
They're bound by tradition, they're bound by love of Dean Smith, they're bound by respect for each other. And I think for whatever problems Rasheed might have had in the past, Larry can reach him in maybe other ways that coaches can't.
What he did with the Detroit Pistons was one of the all-time great coaching jobs we've seen in the NBA. They played tremendous defense, some of the best defense you'll ever see.
Reggie Miller! And it's blocked again! Oh! How did Prince get there?
Coaching the Pistons to their first NBA Finals since 1990, Brown leveled his sights on the Lakers and their misaligned stars, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant.
He was telling these guys beforehand, no one respects you. No one's giving you a chance whatsoever against the mighty LA Lakers. And he played a good mind game with you guys, especially with Chauncey. And you saw that in the finals, that he was in complete control offensively, defensively.
I want to run every time, but we don't have the break. We got to use clock. They can't get a second shot.
Larry dares to single up Shaquille and finds out he can get away with it. The rest of the team guarded Kobe, and the Lakers were just completely outclassed.
Stolen by Wallace. He's out in front all alone.
Larry Brown has finally won his first championship after 22 years as a coach of the NBA and the Detroit Pistons, the champion of the National Basketball Association.
After we won, I really didn't know how to act. I really wanted to go in the dressing room and be by myself, because I wanted the players to enjoy that moment.
But after the cheers faded, the only coach to win a championship in the NCAA and NBA began sounding like a man in search of a new project.
The Knicks is interesting. He came out and said it had been his dream job growing up as a youngster, and then he said that he will not coach the Knicks.
Speculation has persisted, and according to league sources, Piston head coach Larry Brown plans to accept that position as the Cavaliers' president of basketball operations after Detroit's season is over. But Brown himself been very, very defensive about the matter.
I'm coaching here, right? Now, why should I think about alternatives? I don't even want to think about alternatives.
Wherever he chooses to live, Brown will struggle to balance the lights and darks of his self-portrait.
Obviously, winning a championship and being part of that, I thought, wow, what a neat way to end. And then the Olympic experience. I don't think I'll ever lose sight of the fact that I was the head coach that lost. And then that fight, when I saw what happened and the ugliness of that event, it just made me feel pretty empty. So I think all those things being said, it kind of makes me look at my career as kind of winding down.
He always wants to coach again. He will never actually retire because
Coaching is in his veins. It's in his blood. It's the thing that he likes best. It's the thing that he honors most.
I believe if Coach Brown was driving down a deserted highway and happened to see 10 youngsters playing a game of basketball, he would go over and start coaching them. And the surprising thing is, I really believe those 10 kids would listen to what he's saying.